Hey everyone, welcome to Questions That Christians Ask. My name is Scott Krebs, and I want to ask you a question that all of us wonder about sometimes, and that's, are people basically good? You know, are human beings in our core, are we good? Are we bad? Are we neutral? What are we? Now, I kind of could have believed that people were basically good. When I first had my first kid, my oldest son, when he was first born, he was so sweet. He was so perfect. He never did anything wrong. You could totally convince me just based on his first 12 months of life that he was perfect. I would have bought that just based on experience. But here's the thing. My son learned one little word, and that word changed everything, and the word was no. And that really caused me to rethink, you know, people don't seem that good at their core. I didn't have to teach my son to say no. I never had to teach him to lie. I never had to teach him to bite people, bite kids in Sunday school or hit them. He just did that on his own. At least I hope he didn't learn that from his mom. But the point is, it really made me think, man, it doesn't really seem like people are basically good. Well, I want to tell you about a book I just finished. It's called Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. It's by Yuval Noah Harari. Now, I apologize, Mr. Harari, if I pronounced your name wrong. I don't like it when people do that to my name. But this is a really interesting book called Sapiens. Basically, he looks at the history of humanity, starting with our very controversial beginnings and going to the present day and even looking a little bit into the future. And his book is really interesting because he's a historian. He's like a macro historian, and he just sort of catalogs all these interesting things about humanity. And as I think about the fact, are people basically good? Before I turn to the Bible, I'm just sort of reflecting on what he said in his book. You know, he pointed out the fact that humans are the most destructive force in this world, in the universe, whether you think of all the animals that we've caused to become extinct, and not just in the modern era, but even like in the ancient world, humans would make animals extinct or make plants extinct or insects extinct. And that's something that humans do. We are a destructive force, even in our present day, right? When you think of what humans do to God's creation, we are a destructive force in the world in a lot of ways. And we don't have a lot of care that we're messing up the world, the environment, or if you're a Christian, you might say God's creation. You know, another thing that we did as humans is when we found the new world, we wanted to grow sugar here. We wanted to grow sugar and sugar plantations, and nobody really wanted to do that job. It was hard to get people to do it, so we started importing slaves. And we imported millions and millions of slaves just to make sugar to be sent back to Europe to go into people's tea and to make sure that they had candy. So a lot of slavery was built on just our human desire for candy. I mean, this is terrible stuff, right? And Harari talks about different wars that were fought by empires or by nations, not trying to promote justice or not trying to help the people who were oppressed, but simply to help capitalism grow. And anyway, it's just really interesting to see as humans that even as we've gone on, as the years have gone on, we still do all these evil things. We're such a destructive force in our world. We're destructive to each other that I think it's really hard to read Harari's book and say, yes, humans are basically good. What's really interesting is that if you have never read this book, you still might understand that humans are kind of messed up on the inside because we learn this from the Bible. The writers of the Bible didn't think that humans were basically good. They looked at humanity and what we've done, and they knew that we're pretty messed up on the inside. And there's this one passage, Romans 3, there's this long catalog about humanity, and it doesn't paint a pretty picture. There is no one righteous, not even one. There is no one who understands. There is no one who seeks God. All have turned away. They have together become worthless. There is no one who does good, not even one. Their throats are open graves. Their tongues practice deceit. The poison of vipers is on their lips. Their mouths are full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Ruin and misery mark their ways. In the way of peace they don't know. There is no fear of God before their eyes. This is what theologians have called original sin, that every human is born into this world sinful. And now, sometimes that can be confusing to people because you think, well, wait a second, I'm not like Hitler, I'm not as bad as I possibly could be. And that's not what original sin means. It doesn't mean that you and I are as bad as we possibly could be. It simply means that at our core, we're messed up. I think the Bible teaches that clearly. I think history teaches that. I think philosophers have found that we are messed up people. And here's what that tells me. We really need Jesus. We need help to heal our brokenness and on the evil that we do and that's done to us. And that help, that reconciliation only comes through Jesus Christ. Well, thanks so much for watching this video. I've got other videos about questions that Christians ask. And if you have any other thoughts on the subject, put that in the comments below. If you have any other books on this subject that you'd like me to read and to think about with you, that would be great too. And please subscribe to our channel.